Hey, what's up, everybody? You know what time it is. Your boy Jeffrey L. Boney here for another edition, a live edition of Trending Tuesdays. We got our live studio audience in the building. Make some noise. That's right, y'all. We're in the house tonight, man, live here, as always, at K. Davis Showroom Plus. We want to thank K. Davis in the community for all they do. Ms. Danette Davis. Let's give her a round of applause, everybody. A lot going on in our world today, especially in our country. Today, the Senate narrowly passed their, what is it called? Big, beautiful bill. One big, beautiful bill, ugly bill. Anyway, it was passed 51-50 in the Senate with Vice President J.D. Vance casting the tiebreaker. Senate worked through the weekend, about 27 hours to work through amendments and accommodations. What that mean, cutting deals to get this final package done. I want to give a huge shout out to Senators Tillis from North Carolina, Rand Paul from Kentucky, and Susan Collins from Maine, Republican senators who voted against the bill, along with every Democrat. As the bill now moves back to the House, with a vote anticipated as early as tomorrow. I spoke with Congressman Al Green, who just hopped on a plane to get there in time for the vote on tomorrow. I want to say it may have been around 2 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern. At least 6 House Republicans have threatened to oppose the Senate bill because of its changes to their bill text, including Representatives Kim from California, Massey from Kentucky, Roy from Texas, Self from Texas, Valadao from California, and Van Drew from New Jersey. So I wanted to point out one thing. Of course, we know Medicaid is cut significantly, although they did some carve-outs for Alaska and Hawaii. How do they do that? But at any rate, one of the things that stood out, neighborhood access transportation grants, it's a rescission of the unobligated portion of the neighborhood access and equity grants. And so that basically is taking away several highway projects in multiple states, including right here in Texas, that would have helped enhance mobility and transportation in Texas, amongst a lot of other things in this big, beautiful, bad bill. Anyway, that's strongly my opinion on the matter. But here joining me today to talk about the political temperature going on in society today, not only at the federal level, but at the state and the local level. I'm talking about none other than my TSU classmate who went to the Texas Southern, not the other TSU. I'm talking about Texas Southern University. He is a class act man. He is the state representative for House District 27. He's on the national board of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, as well as, he got like 8, 9 clones, y'all, because he's everywhere at the same time. He's in Harris County somewhere else right now. He's in Missouri City right now. He's in Sugar Land right now. And he's right here on Trending Tuesdays. I'm talking about Representative Ron Reynolds. Y'all give it up for State Representative Ron Reynolds. Also, we have my frat brother, member of Omega Psi Phi, the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Y'all can give it up for that. Talking about Howard Henderson. He is a professor in the Barbara Jordan Mickey Leland School of Public Affairs at Texas Southern University. He is the founding director of the Center for Justice Research and professor of Justice Administration in the Barbara Jordan Mickey Leland School of Public Affairs. He is also a non-resident senior fellow in governance studies at the Brookings Institution. He serves as an advisory board member of the Vera Institute's Rural Jail Research Policy Network, a member of the National Scientific Advisory Committee at the Institute of Justice Research and Development at Florida State University, and he's a member of the National Science Foundation's STEM Opportunities in Prison Settings Work Group. Give it up, y'all, for Dr. Howard Henderson. All right. So let's talk about the political temperature. I just talked about the one big, beautiful bill, bad bill, however you want to view it. Ron, your thoughts on the passage of this and what's next?
Well, Jeff, I take homage. You said he's a member of Omega Psi Phi. He's a frat brother. You ain't said nothing about me being a member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity.
You know what, you're right. He is a proud member of Alpha
I
Phi
just had
Alpha
to,
fraternity.
I just had to get it
Incorporated.
in. Well, it's great to be on. I'm excited to be here live with two amazing Omega men, and certainly in the studio with Pure Justice in the house. Yeah, that's exciting. But Jeff, it is a dark day in this country when these elected officials that are there to serve their constituents have sold out to the MAGA extremists, to the wealthiest top 1% of the people, billionaires, to the detriment of working families and the poor and the middle class. There are certain classes of people, the ultra wealthy, that are going to get tax breaks so they can maybe go get another yacht, or maybe perhaps, Dr. Henderson, another private jet or another Bentley or Rolls Royce, while people who are working every day to make a living are going to be without health care that they need. People are going to be without vital essential services. They're cutting these services so that they can give tax breaks to the billionaires that don't need them. This is an awful day, and I don't understand for the life of me why these elected officials that are there to serve their constituents will sell out when they know this bill is bad for the country. Economists say it's bad. Even Elon Musk said it's bad.
Yeah.
It baffles me when people like Susan Collins is great, but you had other people that sold out because they got a carve out.
Lisa Murkowski.
Lisa Murkowski, an independent, got a carve out. I see it at the local level in Austin and state government, where these people know that they're voting against their interests of their constituents, but they're more afraid of Trump and the MAGA extremists. They're more afraid of Republican primaries, and they don't do what's in the best interest of their citizens. So this is a dark day in this country, and I hope that this bill will fail when it goes back to the House. As you pointed out, there's 6 House Republicans. I'm concerned that it's going to pass because Trump has a way of bullying these people. They're afraid to stand up to him. They are afraid to go against these MAGA extremists, and usually when they do, it's when they decide that they won't seek re-election. That's when they grow some. So the American people need to vote and to vote their values in the midterm, and I think everyone that voted for it needs to be voted out of office.
Yeah. Dr. Henderson, any thoughts on the bill and just what's happening at the federal level?
That's a loaded question, actually. I think Representative Reynolds did a good job of explaining sort of the problem, how deeply entrenched it is in our community. But black people have been here before. So we can't act like this is new. We have to be real about it, and we have to utilize our experiences to help us get through this again. There are no surprises in many of our communities. What's shocking, though, is how blatant it is. And I think when you look at the data, when you look at the experiences, when you look at who's going to ultimately suffer, when they say when white America catches a cold, black America catches the flu, we will see the fallout for years to come. And I think we need to prepare ourselves to negate that fallout. But I'll digress. I know there are more questions, but I think we have to be honest about it. We've been here before. This is not new to us, and we know how to deal with it, and we'll be successful again.
Can I just add one thing quick? Jeff, sadly enough, this was forecast with Project 2025, right? We saw the blueprint from the Heritage Foundation and the people who devised these plans, that the architects of this. Trump is just playing out what was in Project 2025, what we warned people. And so many people voted against their own interests. I'm talking about many poor white people, many Hispanic people whose families are being deported right now, voted for this monstrosity, and they're like, well, they were okay with it when they thought it was just going to be black people. Like, he was just supposed to focus on this DEI, anti-diversity, right, equity, and inclusion. But now these farmers, they're being impacted. Poor white folks, vouchers is being nationalized, so public education is going to be cut. You know, you're talking about other essential services, Job Corps, and so many other federal programs are being impacted. And a lot of these people who voted for him, they thought they were getting something that was going to benefit them, like the economy. The economy hasn't went down. Those precious eggs that he talked about he was going to lower, those eggs haven't went down.
Yeah.
Inflation hasn't went down. The price of gasoline hasn't went down. So all of the things that he campaigned on, ending wars on day one, we're going into more wars. All of the things that it was a bait and switch. And so a lot of people, they are now in the, phase around and find out phase. I had to say it that way.
Yeah. F around. Just say F around.
F around. Yeah.
FAFO.
Yeah. They finding out right now.
They're definitely finding out in real time.
In real time.
I will say, Dr. Henderson, let's talk about something else at the federal level that I'm sure you've been paying attention to. You are the director of the Center for Justice Research at Texas Southern, so you do a lot of data and research studies and surveys and stuff like that. This George Floyd policing bill never got off it got off the ground. It passed the House, but it never passed the Senate, even though the Democrats had the majority at the time when President Biden was in office. I want to be clear about that. So it could have passed, just like this one big, beautiful bill got passed narrowly. It's something that they wanted, clearly.
Right.
And clearly the George Floyd policing bill is not something that nobody wanted because it would have passed. Right. So what are you hearing? What are you seeing? What are your thoughts?
Listen, the narrative is the same. The vernacular is a little different. They know that one of the easiest way to galvanize individuals on the right is to engender crime hysteria, to make people feel like they're unsafe, to utilize policing to solve their problem. But police never solve the problem. Jobs solve problems. Healthcare solves problems. All of the work around policing now is going to be about increasing the number of police. They're going to challenge the very notion of community policing. They're going to change the narrative to common sense policing. They're going to change the name. But we have to be vigilant about making sure that we're at the table. This is not a time for us to retreat because the microphone will be in our direction pretty soon. And we need to understand that we need to draw upon our existing resources to deal with these issues. Mass incarceration will be an issue once again. Over-policing will be an issue once again. We just have to be ready to deal with it this time around.
So how do we deal with it?
I think, number one, we have to get back to family values. We have to get back to making sure we work together. This is no time for us to be separated and disagreeing with each other because we're in a different group. No offense to the Alpha Zone. We work together. I think at the end of the day, Jeffrey, the challenge here is to make sure we're informed, doing what these individuals are doing here tonight, making sure they're involved in these discussions. Because as you see, a lot of conversation happens off the record. And we need to make sure we put our vote in. We got to get folks out to vote. We have to keep people informed about these issues. But most of all, we have to stay vigilant about it. We can't give up. Because the moment we give up, we're in trouble.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that, State Representative?
Well, Jeff, you and I were there when the Floyd family was in Houston for the 3rd anniversary of his death. And just like you said, the House, they did their job. They passed the George Floyd Policing Act. But the Senate, because of the filibuster and not the will that the Trump administration has, I can't guarantee, but I bet you if Trump was the president then and he wanted the bill passed, they would have passed it. So I do fault Biden in a sense for not leaning in enough to pass the George Floyd Policing Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. Those are two bills that should have been passed in the Democrat majority when they had the House, the Senate, and the presidency. Both of those bills passed the House. We are now suffering in Texas because of the George Floyd not having the John Lewis Act, but the George Floyd Policing Act should have passed. One of the big problems that we should see is ending qualified immunity so police officers can be held accountable. I know that's something that Pure Justice has fought for, more accountability for police officers, civilian boards with subpoena power, to review allegations of police misconduct. I think that most police officers are good, but we have to hold those bad ones accountable. And the George Floyd Policing Act had the necessary ingredients to be transformational. So now, in this new era that we find ourselves in with this Trump administration, we're actually going in the other direction. Under the George Floyd era, we were going into more diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now we're going into everything is that's a proxy for anti-black, anti-woman, but it really is anti-black. So I believe that we should lean in to do everything we can to not lose sight of some of the progress that we've made, but we have to pass the George Floyd Policing Act. And I'm happy in the studio tonight we have a member of the George Floyd family here with us that has been there from day one, advocating and doing everything we can. And Jeffrey, I know like you, we're going to keep fighting and speaking truth to power until we pass that legislation.
Absolutely. Let's trickle down to the state level. As you say, most everything that happens at the federal level, they tend to get their ideas from Texas.
That's right.
Basically what originates here, they copy and paste at the federal level and in many other states around the country. It's like we're the litmus test.
That's right.
It's like, whatever happens in Texas, if it don't pass in Texas, we're not going to do it elsewhere. But if it goes in Texas, this is what we're going to do otherwise. Governor Abbott vetoed a $60 million summer food program. Wow. Why would he do that?
Jeff, none of us
is bipartisan.
None of us can figure it out. It's just heartless. This is a governor that we weren't going to lose any money. This money was appropriated, and this money should be going to families that are going to be kids that are going to be food deprived, food insecure because of his heartless act. I'm pissed off. I'm really, this made no sense, and there was no justification for it, Jeff. There was no good reason why he did it. He just did it. Maybe he did it to appease his far-right extremists. That's the only thing that makes sense, because nothing makes sense about it, Jeff.
It was
I know, but the only thing I could think of was there's some sinister reason, because there's no justifiable, logical reason that makes any kind of sense. He can't justify it.
So, Doc, I know you...
Maybe Doc can... I don't have no PhD.
He does...
I got an honorary, but why don't you make it make sense for me?
He does research.
I know you studied... I want to hear about this one.
I know you studied the mind of the governor and Trump and all that, and you can pretty much give us a full analysis on how they think. So tell us why in the world would you veto a bipartisan bill and take away $60 million to support, a summer food program that will help kids, particularly those that are underserved?
I think if you understand the history of the country, you understand that a lot of things that are done to people are done because they can be done to people. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It's because when you're in power, you totally dominate people. When you're playing a football game, your coach says, score all the points you can until we get far enough up and we'll put the B team in. The election of Barack Obama scared the country. And they are making sure that we don't ever get the gumption to do that again. And to look at it outside that context, you're missing it. So you're not going to be able to explain why they do what they do. Just know it's part of a plan to make sure that there's enough fear instilled in you to make sure you never have the audacity to elect someone who it was never intended to be in that position. I'm going to pause there for a moment.
It's kind of like, they would do the slaves, the enslaved. They would bring them out in front of everybody and strip them and whip them in front of everybody. What they call them, buck breaking and different stuff like that, so that there would be, it's not that, they were seeing this, so they're like, I don't want that to happen to me.
Right.
And if you get out of line, if you step up, if you decide to raise your voice or raise up, this will happen to you too. And so I think you bring a great point, Doc. What do you say on that, Rep?
It's honestly, this one had us all scratching our heads. The governor is the governor for all, not just the wealthy billionaires and millionaires, but he represents every single person in the state. These were kids, many of them are black and brown, but not all of them. A lot of these are poor white people. Again, he did this that is going to have a detrimental impact on those in our state. Many of them could be in Sunnyside, in 3rd Ward, in 5th Ward, in Acres Home. Sometimes we don't put a face with it, but there are people who are walking around right now that are going to miss meals because of what Governor Abbott did. And we can't just gloss over that, Jeff, and just move on to the next story. I'm glad you brought it up because people need to remember that and channel their outrage by voting and registering people to vote because the midterms are coming up and guess who's on the ballot? Governor Abbott. He's up for re-election. So people need to let him know how they felt about that when he's up for re-election not this November, but next November.
Well, let's bring up another issue that happened. You just finished a long legislative session. Was this your toughest one yet?
It was one of the toughest. Yeah, this is my 8th term, and it seemed like they keep getting worse.
Yeah. Well, we had an issue that came back again. It did not pass in the last legislative session in 2023, but now in 2025, now they're calling them educational savings accounts. But everybody knows them as school vouchers.
They're vouchers. I don't care how you describe them. You put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig.
I understand.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people who were saying that this was going to be beneficial to even African Americans by having this in place. So tell us about the quick and dirty.
I'll give you the quick and dirty of it. Our public tax dollars, all of us pay taxes. Every one of us pay taxes. And the way that our schools are funded is from our public tax dollars. Well, vouchers, our public schools are for the public good. Kids from River Oaks, CUNY Homes, wherever, they can go to the neighborhood public schools and get an education. Private schools are different. They don't have to accept everyone, and people have to pay tuition to send their kids to private school. Well, vouchers are where wealthy, well-off families that send their kids to private school can now get a subsidy on our tax dollars from the neighborhood public schools. So in other words, if I'm wealthy and I send my kids to St. John's and I paid $20,000 and now we have a voucher that's this $10,000, I'm able to now just pay $10,000 because the state is subsidizing that $10,000. But I don't have to accept Pookie or Junebug. I can say, no, I don't want them. Any kid with a disability, no, I don't want them. Any kid that, parents aren't affluent, I don't have to take them because you don't have to accept every kid. And I think it's wrong because now our public dollars are now being subsidized for the wealthy for their private school tuition, and our neighborhood public schools that are already underfunded are going to be more underfunded. And so I think it's a scam that only benefits the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-to-do, and the notion that black kids are going to benefit from it, it's going to be very small percentage of black kids that are going to be benefited because those private schools, they have applications, they have requirements that you have to meet, and if you don't meet them, your kid doesn't get in. And then the worst part about it, Jeff, if they get in and then they get kicked out, well, the neighborhood public school has to take them back, but they've lost the money because the private school, they don't have to refund that tuition. So it's a real scam. It is a gimmick. Every place, the reason why vouchers were initiated, and Dr. Henderson may be able to elaborate on this, because after Brown versus Board of Education, when they had integration, and these so-called integration, these parents didn't want their kids going to these public schools that were integrated, so they had these vouchers where they could then get subsidies for sending their kids to private schools so they wouldn't have to go to school with Junebug and Bebe. It's a scam. Every research that has been done has showed that states that implemented vouchers did not have more academic success for those students. The only people who are winning is the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-to-do. The poor get poorer, and the rich get richer.
Dr. Henderson.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on that and say the poor get prison while the rich get richer. And I think that when you look at the effect of the voucher program, we understand that we need to be having conversations of how we deal with it, what strategies we need, because these kids need us to focus on strategy. They need us to develop a plan to deal with this. Black schools have always been underfunded. That's not anything new to us. And we've been successful in spite of that. And so I think we need to focus on, while the brother and his team works on passing legislation, those of us in the community have to develop plans to make sure that we teach these kids outside of school. It's not against the law to teach your kids late at night. We got to develop a program that allows us to overcome these issues in our community. I think the saddest part about this is when you recognize the effect of this long term, right? Kids who are underfunded end up in juvenile. Kids who are underfunded end up in prison. All of these have an effect on our society that we need to understand.
So I have a question. You know, pointed out what's the political temperature in our society today. It seems like there's a lot of disappointment, a lot of helplessness that a lot of people are feeling. Do you feel like the political temperature is such that people are just angry and wanting to get out to vote and to make change, or have they been buck broken and feeling as if there's no help for them, that they just need to stay in their place?
Honestly, I think it's a mixture. I know some people that feel demoralized because of all the executive orders that Trump came out with. It's shock and awe. Every week is something else. Then you turn your back thinking you got a hold of this. Then he does another thing. So some people, there's a feeling of helplessness and hopelessness. And then for others, it's a feeling of outrage. They're ready to mobilize. They're ready to go to rallies. The biggest people that I think have been kind of taken aback, if I be honest with you, is a lot of black people. A lot of black people said, look, we did our job. 92% of black women voted for Kamala Harris. 88% of black men. And it was a lot of others who voted for Trump. And a lot of these people are saying, we tired. Y'all go out front. When I look at these rallies, it ain't a whole lot of black people out there. I mean, I'm just being honest with you.
Right.
I've been to a few of them, and I'm like, wow, there's a lot of white people, a few sprinkles of black folks. And black folks, when I talk to them, they's like, look, let them have it. We did our job. We tired of doing the heavy lifting, and now I'm just going to speak very freely.
Yeah.
Now the Hispanics want us to bail them out when he coming for them. I've heard a lot of black people say that they get what they deserve. I've heard that by a lot of people that I have a lot of respect for. And so I think there's a mixture of people who are outraged, ready for the midterms, and there's another people who are saying, look, I'm just going to sit this one out.
Doc?
It's tough, but I think people are, they're traumatized. I think that we can't sit out too long. Let me just say that. And if we act like we can, we're going to wake up in a different place that we don't want to be in. I think, in talking to folk, the generations have differences. Some of the young folk are like, hey, this is a different ball game, different day. Here y'all go bring that old school stuff back to this new generation. I think we have always been a complicated people, right? We're not all on the same page, right? But we figure out a way to work together, right?
I said, shut up. We're not on the same page? I thought all of us was on the same page. I thought we all
no, it's no different, but I think
moving in the same direction.
But I think what's different about this moment is that white folk are being publicly annihilated, right? They're not used to that. They're not used to being able to voice their concerns and no one care about it. What you saw today, you saw people say, hey, white people, and they didn't care, they moved right forward, right? I think there's a lot that the country can learn from our experience, and we're going to find out real soon if they listen to what we had to say.
So I know that we, because I have these conversations with people about, you said we did our job. But at the end of the day, I mean, we make up about 14%, a little less than 14% of the overall population in the United States. So that means that what? 86% ain't us. And so that means that 86% is the ones that have more of the sway and the influence, particularly when it comes to voting.
Right.
Those that do vote.
Right.
And so, and the majority of that 86% are white. And so we have to ask ourselves, I often heard people talk about building coalitions and, black and brown coalition and this coalition and whatever. And I think that there could be some merit to that. But at the end of the day, even when we do galvanize, we do come together, we still are, in essence, dependent upon what they decide to do. Am I correct, Dr. Henderson?
Yeah, I don't know if you can get around that one. Slavery did a job on us, and it put us in a position where it became very difficult for us to figure this out. There have always been white victims to America's capitalistic system, right? This time, though, they're actually telling them in their face, you're losing. White farmers are losing, white rural America is losing, and you see how they care about that. At the end of the day, it's about being able to make as much money as you can for the richest people around. And I think that through that experience, the country's going to learn something. The black community already knows this, right? We know how to make it work. We know how to rob Peter to pay Paul. Now everyone else is about to find it out.
I saw somebody had posted a meme after the United States, bombed Iran's nuclear facilities, and he circled Mar-a-Lago in Florida and say, hey, Iran, if you're looking for Trump, he right here. We ain't got nothing to do with this. So I thought that was hilarious. Ron, State Rep, what are your thoughts on the fact that we clearly are somewhat dependent upon other people to do things that are going to move this country forward? We are not the only ones that can move that needle.
Well, we do have to build coalitions. A lot of times we have mutual interest, and we have to be strategic at how do we align with other ethnic groups. More times than not, black people are the ones that are trying to save everyone. Like when it comes to the plight of, Muslims or Asians or Hispanics, we run into the aid and comfort, but who comes for aid and comfort of black folks? Mm-hmm. But besides other black folks? And then sometimes we have people, handkerchief head Negroes that work against their own interest, the Clarence Thomases of the world and others. So we catch HELL, but in order for us to galvanize a majority, we have to build coalitions. That's how Obama was able to win. It wasn't just with the black vote. Obviously, it was a record turnout. Black women are the number one voting demographic, but he had a coalition of young people, young white people predominantly, who bought into his message of hope and change, and we need to galvanize that kind of coalition. Because when Jesse Jackson ran, I know we were like all rah-rah, but he couldn't build that coalition. Kamala Harris, for whatever reason, couldn't build that coalition. And so we need to have that coalition in order for us to have another black president or people who represent our interests. So yeah, it's definitely a necessity that we build those coalitions, because what are we talking about? People who care about fairness, equity, Medicaid, that impacts a lot of people. Livable wage, climate, jobs, those criminal justice reform, those aren't just black issues, but those issues should be able to build a broad coalition. The biggest disappointment for me is a lot of these Hispanic men that really went above and beyond to vote for Trump for whatever reason. And then let's not leave out all these white women who voted against their own interests for what? I don't really get it. Trump has never been pro-woman. This is a man, I have two daughters. that I could never be proud of, grab him by the had just been convicted of 34 felonies, had all these lawsuits for sexual assault, civil lawsuits that he was found guilty of, and these women still went and voted for this man over a qualified black woman. What does it say about those white women that voted? They did the same thing to Hillary, too.
But, I find it interesting, Doc and State Rep, that, there are a lot of times that people vote for individuals because of a variety of reasons that had nothing to do with their ability to govern or for their experience or for their effectiveness. It may be their likability, or maybe because of really them, like Trump truly registered to that silent majority of individuals who had been clearly silent, and he spoke to them, and they started to rise up in a major way. And they came out for him. There was nothing that anyone could say to change their mind on him. He even said himself, I can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue,
yes,
and my people are still going to vote for me. And guess what? He was right. And as much as he has done, as much as he did, they overlook all of that, his lack of whatever, to vote for him for the reasons that they chose to vote for him, including those that you mentioned, State Rep. So I just want to know, Doc, from you, I know that we talked about the individuals feeling hopeless, feeling helpless, feeling as if they're overwhelmed. But, all of this GOTV conversation, get out to vote, for those that don't know what GOTV stand for, all of this, we need to register people to vote. We need to get out the vote. We need to get to the polls. Everybody needs to vote. We saw how important voting is in the city of Pasadena just yesterday. If you all weren't paying attention, there was a vote that took place for a city council race, and the two candidates tied. They did a recount, and it was still a tie. So how did they decide who was going to represent them? A coin toss. So their elected official was decided by the luck of the draw, as opposed to people truly exercising their vote. So when people say every vote counts, they're right, because one vote would have changed the race for whomever. And so the incumbent won, and so, Doc, I'm just saying, how much of our efforts are getting people out to the vote versus educating people about why their vote matters?
Listen, Jasmine Crockett's doing her thing. Hakeem Jeffries is not. And I'm going to call it out on that, because I look around the room. Black women are in the house, right? Black men, we need to get motivated by something other than a national championship, NBA Finals, and the Super Bowl. And until that happens, it's going to take both of us, black woman and black man, to make this work. We talk about the handkerchief heads that you brought up. I'm glad you brought that up, so I didn't have to say that. Because that black bourgeoisie is something else, and we can have a long conversation about that group. But we got a lot of black folks that didn't even vote. We got more black folks that didn't vote than who voted for Donald Trump. Okay? And they in all our families. None of us are immune to that group. We have to do a better job of recruiting our own family than we do on the street corner. If we all could get our family out, just your family, we would see differences. But they're disenchanted. They don't see anything happen. They don't see any change, because we don't do a good job of telling them about the change, right? We separate ourselves. Those of us with college degrees, we walk around with suits and ties, and we're not connected to the person in our family who's not in that same way of life. We got to deal with that group, right? Because we're overlooking them. And if we had their vote, this would be a different country. And they just sat at home. I don't know what was happening, but they just sat at home because we forgot to talk to them. And until we talk to folks in our own camp, we're going to have a problem.
Ron, you and I have talked about this in the political spectrum. There's been this separation as it relates to, pushing this group, pushing that group, and a divide where you had, say, for instance, qualified African-American men who serving, but then there would be individuals pushing because of this black girl magic wave, and you may have someone that wasn't qualified, but because they were a black woman, they ran against someone that may have been an effective representative or elected official because there was this wave, and it seemed like it caused a separation. And to your point, Doc, there shouldn't be a separation when we should have the same common goals and interests. We should support qualified black women, and we should support qualified black men if we all have the same goal. But it's not just doing it because this is the new wave, or this is the new fad, if that's how you look at voting, right? And so I think it's important, if we're going to really see change and make a difference and become unified, then we're going to have to drop some of that stuff, a lot of that, all of that stuff, and really focus on what matters. What matters? If we're trying to move this table from here to over there, does it matter that I'm a black man or you a black woman? If we're working together to move it there, we come together, brainstorm, and figure out this is how we need to get it done, and this is who's going to get it done. Whoever gets the credit, it doesn't matter, as long as we overall accomplish the goal. I think that we need to get to that simplified approach to solving our world's problems. I'll let you, before we go to the break, chime in.
Well, I'll just say quickly, I think that you're right, and Dr. Henderson has probably done research on this, but identity politics is really a big factor in how people vote. A lot of times people vote, like, for example, women overwhelmingly vote to support other women, particularly black women. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but you're right. Sometimes it's against someone who may be a more qualified male, but there's that identity politics. Hispanic surname is another key indicator. Usually on a generic ballot, Hispanic surname with Hispanics, if they don't know anything else, they just vote the Hispanic surname. So identity politics is big. You're right. In an ideal world, we would not have that. We would have more of the best qualified candidate, regardless of gender or this or that. But that is how a lot of times things play out. I've seen a lot of elections won by a lesser qualified candidate because of identity politics. That I don't know how we get away from it, Doc. I mean, that's just, I've seen so much of it.
I know you still got to go to break, but let me say this real quick. We have to begin with some sort of unified strategy, right? When you have two equally qualified folk who equally could benefit the community, why would you have to fight each other? Why can't one say, I'm going to step over here and do this, you take that, and we'll be better off with both of us in a position of power and authority and representation. But what we do is say we want to go for this one slot, and then if you knock me out, everybody on my team is now mad at you because you won. Mm-hmm. Listen, until we understand that we're no longer on the plantation, until we understand that just because you're not running it doesn't mean it can't be good and successful, we have to deconstruct what they call post-traumatic slave syndrome that we all have. And we have to be able to line up and say, it's okay if you win, we're on the same team, right? Because you're about human rights, right? When you look at when they killed Dr. King, of all the times that they killed him when he was in Memphis fighting for sanitation, they didn't kill him all the other time. They let him deal with the black thing all day long. But as soon as he realized it was a bigger issue, they took him out of here. And so what I'm saying to policymakers, go in a room and flip that coin and figure out which one of you going to come out of there and be the one to represent this space and which one's going to represent this space. But instead we fight for one position. Only one's going to get it and the other one's like, okay, now what do I do? And I'm waiting on the time. Let's get together on the same page. Let's look at this as a unified front. Let's deal with this strategically. and let's choose the most qualified person, not the one you. Sometimes my boy ain't the one who need to get the job, right? Sometimes I need to be man enough to tell my boy, hey, she got you, and run with it without my boy having an issue with me.
Yeah.
We got to work through some issues, but we got to have those honest conversations. So,
But to your point, it's the qualified person,
Yeah.
not the likable
That part.
or the person you think may win because they're the incumbent or because they, all of the various things that, people use, identity politics or whatever the case may be. But we're going to definitely finish up this conversation. We're going to toss it to none other than the phenomenal Danette Davis.
Am I, Mike? Yeah, I am. Oh, boy. Wow, what a conversation. Sounds like an educator. Is that what we have? Seems like we need some education in the community, right? All right, we've enjoyed so much. I'm Danette Davis, and of course you guys know we're K Davis in the community. And what we do here is all on purpose. Everything we do is on purpose. We're in this community on purpose. When we chose this slot, and across from this church and across from this school, the very things that make our communities what they are, we think we're right in the middle of it. And we think we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, Pastor. Everybody knows this is the pastor from across the street, or what have you. Now, one of the things that we say, it's been a year. I want you guys to know, we're counting down to our 1-year anniversary. We would have been doing this podcast, Jeff, for 1 year, July 18th, I think it is. And so we're excited about that. So we're calling these the countdown shows. And on this one, I think with the phenomenal guests that we have, what we did was we wanted you to, let's see, how many of you are subscribed to this podcast? It's on YouTube. You know what I'm saying? So I think I told Lauren, I said, we're going to do a little thing. We're going to do 2 things in the break real quick. We're going to ask you to pull out your phones and subscribe. Okay? And, for those of you, our gift to you, or Lauren's going to pass out some numbers. Lauren has some numbers. These are like, if you're in a raffle, right? And you get a number, okay? Now, if they're going to have to find, if it's going to be hard for them to find it, just raise your hand. And Avery's going to show you how to find it so we can make sure we pick up some subscribers tonight, because we feel like what we do for you people that are in the room, we appreciate you so much. But we feel like the conversations that we've had literally over this year have been phenomenal. And we think more people should join the conversation. That's what our next motto is, join the conversation. And at the end of this deal, I talked with Ron and Dr. Henderson Jeff, and they're open to let us have a few questions and kind of share some things and let other people join the conversation just for a few minutes after we're done today. It's not always what we do, but these guys are so used to audiences and things like that they're going to be good with it, right? So are you passing them out? Are you checking, Lauren? If they need any help, what have you? Let me tell you 2 things. I'm going to do these other 2 ladies I want to talk about, but real quickly. Now, Ron, you were at the event I went to with Bishop Dixon.
Yes.
And you know what? I meant to invite this gentleman tonight, and I just couldn't get around to it. I don't know, this is a game, and this is a gift. If whoever wins, we're going to pull your name, and then we're going to share this with you. It's called Crime or No Crime. I went to a social event that Bishop Dixon had, and Ron was one of the panelists. Rodney Ellis was there, and some others were there on that panel. And I was very impressed because the gentleman that was there working in the middle, he said, I'm an attorney, my wife's an attorney, my 2 kids are attorneys. He said, and some of the questions we get are so basic, and if people just knew the answers, a lot of things they wouldn't do. And then we're talking teenagers. So this game, first thing they said was, who's got a teenager? Who knows a teenager? Who's got kids that are going to be teenagers and that kind of thing to get the interest. And it's called Crime or No Crime. But what they explained was, in playing the game, because it's just a game, but it's learning answers to things like, if I'm driving the runaway car, the getaway car, if somebody gets shot, am I guilty? I didn't do it. He talked about that very thing when he shared it with me. And it's like just understanding, what the basic things are that you should learn maybe in junior high and high school that would stop some kids. He said they get calls all the time. And he said it's just, you want to call it dumb questions. He said, but it's basic questions. And you can learn it with a game. He said this generation needs to kind of do it that way because they're going to get it better because they'll enjoy it. So I just want, this is just a gift real quick. And I wanted, while we're pulling the name, the number, I wanted to bring something else to knowledge. Now, since we've been here, we've had a few people who've been here since like day one. Bernadine, would you come up here, please? Bernadine is also my church mother, y'all. But Bernadine is here every Trending Tuesday.
Yeah.
She was here doing, right? She was here during the Movement Festival. She worked some events. If you were out there, you saw her. She started working. She's on the table taking names and doing things. And today is her birthday.
Oh, happy
Right?
birthday.
So we want to say happy birthday. And then I want to bring up Sharita. Now, we toasted Sharita last week, but Sharita wasn't here. She was celebrating her birthday last Trending Tuesday. And like Ron, like you mentioned, she's somebody else that's been running with me since we put that statue over there in Tom Bass Park. She is that relative of George Floyd who fights and fights that good fight. And everybody knows it. But her birthday was last Tuesday. So what I did, I told my son, I said, you going to pop the cork? I said, it'll be libations for others after when we finish the podcast. But for right now, I just want to do a little toast for both these ladies. Would you do that now? Okay. All right. Look at, oh. That's what I was afraid was going to happen to me, right? Lauren, did you get it all passed out? Passed out. Well, yeah. What? Okay. Y'all, everybody subscribe? This will turn into an act of Congress. Hilarious. These two, they left their glasses, y'all. So bring it. Who's another birthday? Oh my goodness! Well, come on down. We're doing birthdays. These are our regulars, y'all. We have folk. We're starting what we call the Trending Tuesdays Club. Yeah. Okay, and because we're starting to get a little following of folk who vote and care about their community and what happens and social issues and kids and everything in between, right? And so she's another person as well. So we want to toast you. You got your little glasses real quick, just want to do a toast. And Lauren, if you'll go on and pull us a number, we don't want to waste too much time because we got to finish. For the gentleman, I want to thank you while you're sitting there, Dr. Henderson. It's just a phone call from people that you trust that say, this is somebody you need to meet. And you've been that. And of course, Ron, I told Ron, Ron, I've never seen anybody that's everywhere all the time. Y'all know Ron is literally, I think it's more than one of you. You and Jeff catching up, man. Jeff, it's impossible to be at all the places, but I know you guys do that stuff because you care. Okay, you want to come up?
Yeah, come on.
Because this is the newest member. She came last time, Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
So come on down. You want to? Okay. Because we're gonna do it real quick. We're not gonna stay long. But a lot of times during intermission, guys, and intermission at what we call the break, I'll have artists that you'll see the art on the wall, which you do see. Every piece that we buy. When they come and they show up, Jeff, we buy these 2 pieces from them, and those are things that are here. You'll have musicians. At our next one we'll have live musicians. We do those kinds of things, what have you, because art is how I breathe, right? And everybody loves music, everybody loves art and things like that, but we also pay them and things like that. So which brings us to, you got to see something at the end of the show. Not only with subscribe, but we're hoping that you will brand with us, and if you work with an organization or you just something, I don't know, people, new businesses or what have you, if you want your name up and in front of these gentlemen, we have people like this on our show all the time, and many times you just, guess what? We feed them after we get done. So you get about 30 minutes with them, and you get to talk to them up close and personal. And we think that that's important, what have you. And what that does is help us, pay for the food and do the things that we do that we know we have to do for the community. There are some things we just have to do, but sometimes we need just a little bit of help. So with that, okay, ladies, are we toasting? I guess I don't get a glass. Look, hey, my audio guy got a glass. It doesn't matter. All right. I just want to say cheers. Cheers. Last week, y'all, we did boots on the ground in the intermission. Yes, we did, because we were talking about seniors and stuff. And Jeff learned that senior citizens start at 55. Jeff said, wait. I said, well, I get that AARP card. So anyway, I just want to say thank you, ladies. If you got a word to our audience or to the listeners, just 1 or 2 words, real quick. We're going to do that. want to say? Wisdom. You know, you're always grateful. I don't know.
Well, I'm just grateful to be here today with this distinguished panel. We're learning a lot of information. I know Jeffrey, I've worked with him before, and it's a great time. My name is Evelyn Arrington. Yes.
Eleanor McDonald, and I just want to say when you all are talking about why the governor did what he did, he used an old tactic of fear. And so when fear shows up, what does the Word of God say about it? He said he has not given us a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. How do you get power? How do you get love? And how do you have a sound mind? Think about that.
All right. You got your, yours working?
I just say thank you all, and I'm glad to just be here with you. So I'm glad to still be standing and to be a senior citizen still standing.
Amen.
And finally, I'll say the same thing. I'm just grateful to be here tonight, to be a part of this conversation. Very interesting times, but like she said, we don't have a spirit of fear, so this is not the first time we've encountered something like this. We can get to the other side of it. But I'm just grateful to be here for another year. I'm actually officially a senior citizen myself.
See, on the fun side. All right. Lauren, we got a number? Okay. Lauren, now look at your numbers. Lauren's going to pull a number out of our Trending Tuesdays mug that Pastor got for us. Anybody looking for that kind of work, though, Pastor is the best. Pastor Bosono. Yes. What's the number? 6. Who is it? You 6? Oh, okay. Well, look at you. You got a double whammy. Well, then, congratulations or what have you. And I'm going to find out for everybody else who put that game together, because I really think my son, who's a teacher, I bought 2 of them, and he teaches middle school. He teaches history and science. And the stories he talks about, you know, and then he tells me, I don't know if you're the only black male. He's the only black, are you, at your school? He's the only black male teacher at his school. Ain't that pitiful? That's pitiful. What's the school? Pearland Junior High West. You know what I'm saying? And he's getting weary, y'all. So we got to have some folk to come behind him that keep this, to hold that mantle up. You know, the stories I could share. You know, so with that game, that was one of the things I was going to give you with that game, so that with the kids that are middle, and, you know, there's something they could do for fun to learn at the same time about criminal justice system. So with that, we're going to, Jeff, we're going to go back and let you finish.
Y'all ain't going to take your toes?
Huh? Oh, we didn't tell us. I'm so sorry. I'm okay. I thought I'd already told. I've been talking so long. Okay. Ladies, I toast to you.
Yeah. All right,
And thank you, guys.
Back to me.
All right. Thank you.
All right, y'all, we're back. And let's give it up for our live studio audience, y'all. We got our regular Trending Tuesday crew in the building. We got Pure Justice in the building. Yeah, we got Dr. Boson in the building.
Yeah.
JY all day. And we got, of course, we got the birthday girls in the building.
Yeah.
I noticed I didn't say the birthday seniors. I said the birthday girls. You know, y'all didn't do Boots on the Ground today. I mean, well, maybe after the show. But I just want to jump right back into it. I know Danette, of course, we want to always give it up for Danette Davis, K. Davis in the community. We're broadcasting live here in the heart of Sunnyside, Houston, Texas, at the K. Davis Showroom Plus. That's indeed. And so we're going to jump right into it. I know Danette mentioned that there were some folks that may have some questions, and notice what I said, questions. Not statements, questions, because sometimes people get the mic and they have a statement that they want to make versus a question. So we'll allow people to figure out what their questions are going to be. But I'm going to jump right back into it. Oh, by the way, Dr. Henderson, many of your doctoral graduate students are watching the show,
Okay.
and they wanted to give you a shout out and say that you taught them something.
Yeah. No, I think, I have to give a shout out. Texas Southern, we have one of the only, I think there are 3 or 4 PhD programs in administration of justice. And so we're training PhD students to do the research that we need done. And so I just thank them for watching it and be on the lookout. They're rising stars.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now let's talk about some of the work you do with the Center for Justice Research. Did I get that right?
You got it right.
All right. Tell us about that at TSU. What
Yeah,
you do
a couple years ago, we had the opportunity to develop a research center that would do a couple of things. One was to provide policymakers, agency heads in the community with data to help solve problems. Because what we realized was that very few of the think tanks around the country providing data look like us. And so we asked a unique set of questions that would hopefully transform crime and justice in our community. But we also train the next generation in making sure that these students graduate with a working knowledge and ability to be competitive around the country and doing research at the local level.
So how's this, is that somewhat similar to what Heritage Foundation does?
Well, yeah,
For black folks?
No, we've had the fortune. God has been good to us. We have been able to help legislators at the local level all the way up to Washington, D.C. We've done some international work, making sure that they have the data. Black folks just ask a different set of questions, right? We're not just interested in what something does. We're interested in how it works and how we solve problems. And so we've been able to do that now. We've probably trained over 500 students over the last 8 years, and we keep moving.
And you've gotten quite a few grants as well. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, in 8 years, we bought about $32 million in grant dollars, both federal government and philanthropic organizations. With that, though, is a burden, right? You got to do something with it. And I think we've been fiscally responsible with that to make sure that we ensure that policymakers get our work. And we've seen some positive efforts in that regard.
Can you point to any changes that have come as a result of your research?
Yeah, that's always a question that people ask. We've seen to date about 20 pieces of state legislation that have been premised on our work. We've seen federal legislation, a lot of policy at the federal government level, making sure that very simply, we want to make sure that when they make decisions politically, that our research is there to make sure they understand the impact on our community. We've done a lot of work locally to make sure that when they pass local ordinances and policies, that they understand the direct impact on our community. So we're always doing local work, making sure they know what we're doing.
State Rep, y'all got another special session coming up.
Don't remind me. Yes.
So your governor vetoed several pieces of legislation that now he wants to talk about again, which doesn't make quite make sense to me. Why would you want to talk about something that you clearly didn't want?
Well, Jeffrey, to be quite frank with you, we have a special session, for those who don't know, that starts on July 21st. Only the governor can call a special session, and they're 30-day increments. So, but I think the real reason he's not stating that he wanted to have a special session was because President Trump wants Texas to do congressional redistricting mid-decade. In other words, usually you only do redistricting every decade after the census. We already did a redistricting. Trump is afraid that during the midterm that the Republicans will lose some seats. And so he wants Texas and Republican states that have large populations to redistrict so they can draw more gerrymandered Republican-leaning districts so that they can have some cushion for the seats that they think they're going to lose. That is what Governor Abbott is not saying out loud. But I think that strategically, that is the reason why we're going back. So he vetoed the THC bill, courts, all the criminal justice bills. Those bills didn't need to be vetoed. He didn't want to just call us back for congressional redistricting because he was concerned that Democrats would not show up like we did before. So he put these other things on the call of the special session. Then once we're there, y'all remember I said this. Once we're there, he's going to add it. He can add it on any time during a special session, or he can call another special session. But I think that's the real reason why he's doing it. Trump needs more cushion to absorb some of the losses for seats that he's likely to lose, because he wants to keep a Republican majority in the House so that he can keep rolling his agenda throughout his 4 years in office.
And in talking with quite a few people and doing some research myself, I think there are a lot of Democrats who are actually welcoming a conversation on redistricting because they feel like it could hurt the Republicans more than the Democrats. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm a little leery of that, Jeff. I mean, optimistically, yes. But the way that they do this basically because the Shelby case, the Supreme Court gutted the Shelby case that Texas had to get preclearance when they redrew lines because of historic discrimination. That's what had to happen when they gutted key provisions of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. When they did that, it allowed for these states like Texas to basically run over black and brown communities, right? And so I believe that we're going to see some real jigsaw puzzle redistricting. I'm concerned about the 18th congressional district because there's no Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. I'm concerned about the 9th congressional district because Al Green is a big target, because he's been outspoken. He's pushed for impeachment from Trump. I'm concerned about the 30th congressional district. You've mentioned Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. All of those are seats that the Trump administration would love to mess with. So I'm not really optimistic, honestly, when we go back for redistricting. I don't think it's going to be pleasant for Democrats. I think the only reason why they would do redistricting is to disenfranchise what they call cracking and packing of minority districts. Dr. Henderson and I just had the fortune, or misfortune, however you want to call it, of being testifying at the redistricting trial in El Paso. We haven't even got that straightened out yet. So I'll say, long story short, the Republicans aren't going to do us any favors when it comes to redistricting. It's going to be awful. It's going to be very painful for communities of color because Texas, the last round of redistricting, black people and Hispanics and Asians, which were the majority of the growth in Texas, 90% based on the census, they got no minority opportunity districts, zero. Republicans did everything they could to gain additional seats. Now they're going to do this on steroids. So no, I'm not optimistic about it. I think it's going to be a dark day for Texans and particularly African Americans and Hispanics.
Yeah, because I remember the last time redistricting was discussed, they actually drew Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee out of her seat.
That's right.
And put her in District TX9.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
So,
we had to fight like hell in order to get that untangled because that's what they do. And I think that I wouldn't be surprised if we saw something like that or even worse in this round of redistricting.
Wow. Especially with there being no current representation.
Correct.
There
is no incumbent.
18.
Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, God rest her soul, she was there and she was on our behinds. And there is nobody now. And so Governor Abbott did that intentionally by delaying the election. The election should have been in May. Sylvester Turner died in January. There was a uniform election in May. I guarantee you, Jeff.
And he could have called a special election at
any point. Yeah. I guarantee you if it was Republican, he would have called it. That vacancy has allowed this big, beautiful bill to pass. I want the audience to know if Sylvester Turner or any Democrat was in that seat that could have voted no, that bill would have been dead in the House. So they're doing this intentionally. It is taxation without representation. That election is now not until November, and with all these candidates, it's unlikely that anyone's going to receive 50%. You're probably not going to have a congressional representative for the 18th until December. That is really a tragedy. And when it came to earmarks and what we call stuff for districts, the A team got zero because there was no champion. There was no one there now that says, what about this? They have no representation right now.
Wow, man. Danette, do we have any questions in the audience tonight? Because I want to make sure, you mentioned it, I want to make sure that if we do, before we close out, that we get any and all questions answered, and then we'll allow
Amen.
for closing comments.
Okay. You want to, I think we want you, okay. Yeah, well, that's okay. Can you get a camera?
Thank you. So on your research, what were some of the main reasons people indicated why they were not voting?
And so that's so for us, I think our research is more so around just civic engagement in general. And some of the reasons why people told us that they were disengaged was because they felt like they didn't get any benefit from that, right? They felt like that their voices were not heard. But a lot of the individuals that we talked to would tell us that they simply didn't understand the process. And so a lot of this has to do with the information. There was a study a couple years ago where they mailed out like voter mailers to inform voters of their rights and what they were able to do. And what they were able to show is that when voters receive mailers, they're significantly more likely to go out and vote. So a lot of this is just us basically giving people information about where to go, who's on the ballot, just simple information. We have to stop assuming that people know this and talk to everyone as if they don't know and govern ourselves accordingly. Thanks.
I'm a graduate of Grambling State University. I finished with the first famous black quarterback, Douglas Williams,
All right.
1978. I'm a degreed social worker from Grambling State University. And I'm from Louisiana, but this was my first year voting. But my problem is our people that's in office. For instance, rest Sheila Jackson Lee. So why we don't get together like Biden, put their, and like the White House. They bring their children from Yale and brew them for them to become next representative. That's why it's so full of them and relatives. So why Sheila Jackson Lee didn't get together with Amanda? She ran neck and neck with Amanda. And she exposed a lot of things. Why? We don't help one another. And that's what we have to do. You know, we can't hold on to it. And God, you know, God sits high and he looks low. Psalm 139. He sees everything and he knows everything. Right. So we got to get together and get the entrance from our young children, because we're losing them.
Right.
We're losing them from that power of M-O-N-E-Y.
Yeah, I would thank you for your comment question. Yes. I would just start off by simply saying that, none of these seats are our seats. They're the people's seat. And the people are the ones that decide. So Sheila Jackson Lee or any other person that's currently in office they can decide who they want to endorse and who they would like to see in that seat. But that doesn't guarantee you that you're going to be that person, because the people are going to decide. And the people did not decide Amanda Edwards, because, she ran for office. And when Sheila decided she was going to get back in the race after she had run for mayor, the people could have chosen her then. And they did not. And if they wanted her to be their representative, they would have chosen her to be their representative. And so when it came time to the precinct chairs actually making the determination, they chose Sylvester Turner over Amanda Edwards again. And so, I think that at the end of the day, if it's intended for the people to decide that Amanda Edwards is that person, they're going to decide that that's who they want to represent them. But there are 29 people in that race now. So 29 people got an opportunity to be chosen by the people of TX18, and I'll trust them to make sure that they come to the polls and tell the community what they want and who they want.
I'll just say this real quickly. I think that the good thing about on paper at least, is that we're in a democracy where the people do decide. There are no kings where, but my descendants are the ones that succeed me. In other words, the people can say, I did want you, but I don't want your son or your daughter. And that's the beauty of democracy. I think that is our system of government functions best when the people choose the representative, not the representative chooses the person. So even though we can endorse people, at the end of the day, it's the community that decides who it is that's going to represent those communities.
And there are a lot of people, I'll just end with this, unless you have something to share, Dr. Henderson. There are a lot of people that Sheila endorsed and other people endorsed that didn't win. So just because you endorse somebody or handpick that person and say, this is who I want, Sheila Jackson Lee got behind her daughter to be the state representative. And the precinct chairs did not choose her. They chose Sean Theory.
That's correct.
And so, just because you tap someone to say that that's who I want doesn't mean that that's the way the people are going to decide. So it's really up to the people. Did you have anything?
No comment. I'll let your politicians.
All right. Yes.
I just want to make a statement that the underserved community that receives public assistance like food stamps and other benefits, we did a study through the Economic Development Department at TSU and HCC combined together, and we found out 97% of those people did not vote. So on your application, when you have food stamps, one of the last sheets says, are you a registered voter? So I didn't know why they used that. So I just found out recently that they can target who's going to vote in the black community in the lower economic status. And in that process, they're on food stamps. And, they're cutting food stamps and they're cutting aid to parents with dependent kids. The people need to be educated. Those people need to be educated because we got a list of people, they said their food stamps went from $375 to $175. What are we going to do? You're going to get you a job and you're going to get you a training. That's your alternative. You don't have a husband, you don't have a head of household, you're the head of household. So you're going to have to make a step to protect those kids. If you don't protect the kids and train them, they're going to be animals on the street.
Thank you for your statement.
Thank you.
All right, sir.
All right, so a couple things, and I guess I'm going to turn it to a question, but Danny Norris, former trustee on the Harris County Department of Education, and one of the things I noticed, Texas specifically sits in a very interesting position. There's no path to the White House for Republicans without Texas. And Harris County is always targeted by the state legislature, as Representative Reynolds knows. He's usually there on the defense. But it seems like Harris County specifically is targeted by the legislator, but it seems like there is an issue for turnout specifically when it is targeted. I think when the funding went up, voting went up. And actually, drive week when we had, I think it was in 2021 when we had it was 2020 when we had the drive-through voting and we had all those things, and then the very next session outlawed by the governor. So I guess the question for us, and since we are all here and everybody here is pretty much for Houston and Harris County, what do we need to do specifically in light of all the challenges to give people like Ron some help and make sure that Texas, ultimately we want to flip Texas. And that because the numbers it's a matter of numbers. When the numbers are there, Ron and them can pass bills. Otherwise, they're just going to go there and play defense for the next dozen years. So what do we need to do to give them some help? I mean, I'm a plaintiff right now for one of the lawsuits that is still pending against that 2021 bill that they did to kill all of those things. But we need more than just defensive lawsuits that are getting struck down in the courts. What do we need to do to get more people out? It sounds like information is one, but specifically for Houston specifically, how do we make sure our turnout and we get more people? I don't know, I think a lot of these cuts may make people feel it more. So like to Dr. Henderson's point, if they say, I don't understand why, it didn't really matter to me, but if your food stamps get cut or if your Medicare gets cut, maybe that'll make you feel it a little bit more. How do we, all these cuts going through, how do we make sure we take advantage of this time right now to make sure that we make Texas, flip Texas towards our favor, specifically for black people? So.
I think, again, it's about information. sometimes we don't want to offend our friends and family, and we don't want to tell them the truth because we just want to peacefully coexist in the space. But I think over the next few months, we're going to find a lot of people hurting. And sometimes pain will make you get up and do something you wouldn't ordinarily do, right? And so I think, we need to be able to connect, as they say in the South, pig to the bacon. And we need to be able to show them that this is a result of this. And because you didn't vote, this is what happened. And this is what happens when you do vote. It's got to be very simple. I watch Fox News because I want to learn. I want to learn the thinking. I want to see how they communicate. And they're very basic in their communication. They don't do anything complicated. It's like, hey, you want this? Now, it might be a lie, but it's still, do you want this? You get that. But I think we got to take it back and become very basic. We got to talk to people on their level. We have to be honest about what's causing what. And we have to be able to critique ourselves, right? And be able to say that, listen, if you want to get your food stamps back to $3.75, this is what has to happen. If you want jobs in your neighborhood, this is what has to happen. But we also got to communicate outside of our community. We can't just talk to our people alone. I talk to white folks every day because I want them to understand that we see what's happening and we see you all hurting. How can we come together? Because politics makes strange bedfellows. What we're going to see over the next couple of years, we're going to see rural Texas going to scream and say, hey, look, this voucher system is killing our school district. This is an opportunity to actually collaborate and collaborate with folks that you normally wouldn't talk to. Use it in this moment.
All right. I think we have a couple of more questions.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gary Tucker II. I must say I've enjoyed this talks with you educated brothers, with everyone here. You have really opened my mind and lit a little fire inside me. I am a person, I'm a returning citizen, having done 17 years of incarceration in the state of Florida. If someone like me wanted to help influence local policy or support criminal justice research that really reflects our reality, now my rights have not been restored, so I cannot vote at this time. Where would I even start? Where would someone like me start? And what would my role look like in that space?
Well, I think you have an outstanding organization here called Pure Justice that you need to connect with, for one. Is Pure Justice in the building? All right. I think Pure Justice would be a good start, and they can help you navigate, because your willingness to get involved and engage in the community, although you cannot currently vote at this time, there's still ways in which you can educate those that may, to avoid, what I don't know the reason that you ended up doing 17, but whatever the case may be, it doesn't matter. You did your time, now you're here, and so now you can educate those to prevent them on a preventative measure to stay on these streets and make a difference and an impact in the best way you can. So, I think that you had the power and the willingness as what, you wouldn't have got up here and asked that question if you didn't have the heart and the willingness to try to serve and make a difference. So, let's get you involved and engaged with organizations like that so you can make a difference. Because I know that they've dealt with and probably even have members of the organization that have a similar story to yours.
Thank you.
I just want to just commend you, brother, for being here and being willing to want to be engaged, because a lot of times people come out of the system and then they just want to be a victim. It sounds like you're a victor and you want to make a difference. So even though you haven't had all of your rights restored, you want to be engaged, and I think that we need more people like you, man. It takes a village, and you are definitely a key part of the village.
Amen.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think this is your season. We have the luxury of having a convicted felon in the White House.
Huh.
And
that part.
And I think you have to use it to your advantage. I look at everything as an opportunity. And, with your experience, you're very valuable, because there are a lot of young people who need to know what you know to save them. I think you need to think very entrepreneurially about how you navigate the space. But I think, this is your season to do what you need to do to save some lives. And I'll give you my information, but please feel free to reach out to us, and we'd love to have you on campus and doing something in some regard. We'll figure it out. Thank you.
And thanks for coming to H-Town. All right, I think we have one more question, 2 more questions, all right? 3 more questions? Oh, 1 more question. All right.
No, hi, my name
Hi.
is Anita Robinson,
Yes.
fellow Texas Southern Tiger.
All right, TSU in the house.
Okay, and with Pure Justice.
All right.
Okay, I am a mother. I have 2 sons. One is 22. I call him the disaster recovery baby because when he hit high school, Harvey came, and we had disasters nearly every year of his high school career. And then I have a soon-to-be 18-year-old who one went to a brick and mortar school and the other is completely doing homeschool. So all of the challenges that HISD students have faced in the past few years with all the disasters, being behind in their academics, and those kids are now coming out of school, looking for jobs, not finding jobs, being frustrated, and disenfranchised from the system, right? That's where we are. Those kids are adulting now and struggling. My question is, how do you or how do we reach them in their language and in their space, because it took the act of God for me to get my 22-year-old to consistently vote. At one point, he's like, I'm not voting because it's this, blah, 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 right? Now, the 17-year-old just attended an advocacy summit with the Houston Public Library and Pure Justice. And at first, he didn't want to go. But after he did, they gave him, he's got a nice little mug, he's got a book. They did some activities to show how he can advocate for things that are important for him. So my question is, because we know how the media trained TikTok and everybody does the misinformation mill, what are we going to do as a strategy and a plan that we can all get on board as adults who don't want to be online and don't want to be out there with them, to be able to bring those new voters in so that we can flip and that we can somehow have a strategy against the gerrymandering that they're getting ready to do?
Well, I'll start just by saying, first of all, thank you for your comment and question. I would just simply say, I think that for any young person, you got to, like Dr. Henderson say, talk to them in their language. You got to treat everybody like they too. You know what I'm saying? To try to break it down in palatable ways, and look, I just use the SAT word, palatable, but I'm saying you got some ways in which that they can receive the information. And I would suggest, like I always do, start at the local level. I think that sometimes we try to push everybody to talk about Trump and talk about Biden and Kamala Harris at the federal level. That's important, but who impacts you the most are your local elected officials. So those individuals, I mean, if you own a home, or if you want to make sure that you're safe in a public safety environment where you don't have a police department that's, beating you up and arresting you every second of the day, and they have a rogue police chief, those people are hired by your local elected officials and the people that they appoint to those positions, right? So it's important when it comes to picking up your trash, when it comes to fixing your streets or your sidewalks, stuff like that is something that they can tangibly see on a day-to-day basis. It's stuff that impacts them on a regular basis. So if you can get them started looking at the local level, even school district, if they fresh out of school, high school, if they went through the public school system anyway, then okay, you could have made a difference doing something while you were in high school. Now you're able to vote. These are your school trustees. These are the people that make decisions on the schools like yours that you went to. So I think that we start focusing on local elected politics and local elected issues, then we can kind of get them to ramp it up to making sure that Ron stays in office, and that we don't get bills like the one big beautiful bill passed and stuff like that. So I think that that's important, and
I'll just add. I think first of all, I'm so happy you asked that. I think young people are the key. When you look at this fascinating New York mayor's race that just happened, it was a big upset against a former governor and someone that the establishment was supporting from a younger no-name, funny-name person because young people came out and voted overwhelmingly for that person. So, and that person had a message that resonated with young people. So we need to engage young people, expose them, and not take them for granted, and not, like you said, talk over them, and talk to those issues that they care about. And that is something that I know a lot of organizations like Pure Justice are doing. And so what I would recommend is that we give young people more exposure, and we have more young people that are speaking to their issues. They may not resonate with us. They may resonate more with a younger person that's able to speak their language, that has that kind of swag, that understands, more of it could be hip hop, it could be whatever, but the important thing is, you can't expect what they say, you can't put a round square peg in a round hole. That we have to stop trying to have cookie cutter politics and cookie cutter conversations and tailor it to the specific needs of that individual. And I think that's somehow a lot of times we want to make young people, I'll never forget, I'll say this and I'll shut up. When I've heard young people say, well, it don't motivate us when y'all say, well, our people died for that. Or you talk about slavery, or you talk about the civil rights movement. We ain't feeling that. I had those conversations. So we can't sell them on the message of, well, segregation and bus boycotts. It has Jim Crow. It has to be a different conversation. And so we have to be willing to tailor our message to the needs of the young people. And that is something that I've seen, resonate. Even though Bernie Sanders is an old man, he resonates with young people. The young people they feel the burn because he speaks to their message. He speaks to AOCs, and you mentioned Congresswoman Crockett. They speak to those issues. So we need to learn and take that message and make it appealable so that they understand the value and make it plain for them. They are more willing to take it to the streets, and we need to make it so they understand that's only part of it. When you take it to the streets and protesting and marching, if you don't get to the polls to vote, then you only completed half of the process. But we have to make it make sense to them.
I think somehow we've adopted this European approach to managing our kids. And there were some things my mama just didn't ask me to do. She said this needs to be done, and so I was raised to just do what she told me to do. Somehow we switched to this negotiation approach, and now it's backfired on us, right? And so now we can't get them to do anything, right? And so we're going to have to get back to a day where we recognize that as a child in my house, this is the way we move. We go vote, this is what we do. I didn't ask my mom and grandmother. I watched them. I just knew this is what I was going to do when I turned 18. I didn't have any doubt about it. My son, he's 14. But there's certain things I'm going to expect of him. My daughter, 7, that's an because I understand that they may not understand the implications of that. If you need me to pay tuition, you need me to buy you a Fortnite, whatever, then I expect you to go push this button. But we also have to make sure that they don't get exposed to it at 19 and 20. They've seen this from 5, 6, 7, 8. I just think we have to model the behavior for many of these kids. We have to reinstitute what worked. Everything that happened to black folks wasn't bad. In some of our communities, we raise kids the right way, right? We got to get back to that. We've let social media take over. Everywhere you go, somebody's got an iPad in the kid's face, raising the child. We got to begin to put in these kids' faces, we had the Cosby Show, we had Different World, we had things that motivated us. They don't have it anymore. They got the other side. I think there just needs to be an expectation that this is what you do as a black person in democratic society. You need to go vote because this is going to happen to you. And so I think that it's uncomfortable, right? But I think it's necessary. We should reevaluate that, I think.
Yeah.
I will say one thing. I do work at polls. I am a election worker. I've been working it for several years. And this recent election with Kamala, we did see families coming to the polls.
Right.
So regardless of how the election actually turned out,
Right.
the one thing that I can say was happening was whole families
Right.
were coming to vote, and they were bringing kids who couldn't vote to witness them
Right.
vote, and that was happening at the polls. So we're doing something, but we just need to keep trudging to get there.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
All right, y'all, we're about to get up out of here. I think that concludes our comments and questions. We're a little extended edition tonight, but that's good stuff. We had some great conversation. I just want to say, and Ron brought this up before we toss it back to Danette, that Mom Donnie is his name. That was a local election. It's a big local election, but it's a local election.
Yeah.
And he started talking to them about stuff like rent freezing and stuff like that.
Yep.
I mean, stuff that resonated with them because young people pay what? Rent. They ain't homeowners in most cases. So that was something that resonated with them, as well as many other things about transportation and stuff like that. So his message, and he had these little 60-second, 90-second
Right.
clips
Yeah.
that was just hitting you each and every day
Right.
on social media. So he knew where to find them. He knew how to talk to them, what their issues were, what their pain points were, and he spoke to that. Now, whether he can deliver on any of that, who knows? But at the end of the day, he got them motivated enough to get to the polls, and that's what matters.
Right.
And then now once they get, not if he's elected, because he's the Democratic nominee.
Yeah.
Once he's elected, then you hold him accountable. So you don't just stop when you get the person elected. Because see, when President Obama was elected, everybody was excited. But from a deliverable standpoint, when he had the House, the Senate, and the presidency, there's still some things that could have been done for Black America that did not get done. So same with Biden. So the accountability has to be there. All right, y'all. So I think that that'll do it for me and my panelists on this evening. Let's give it up for our panelists, Dr. Howard Henderson, State Representative Ron Reynolds. Let's get it up for the live studio audience in the building.
Thank you.
And let's give it up to, as I toss it over to her, Miss Danette Davis, y'all.
Oh, wow, yeah. As we close, I was watching. I'm so excited. I got my grandkids over there. They looking at iPads. Looking at iPads. I had to give it when she walked in the door. She said, "What's the Wi-Fi?" And I started not to give it to her, but I went on and handed it. You know what I'm saying? But we got to watch. You're right. They do that, but then at the same time, I know her parents make sure what she's looking at. So we got to get them where they're at. So it's what they get on the iPads and what they're learning, because you're not going to take it away from them. It's like a fight. But anyway, we're going to close with that. And one of the things, guys, as you were closing, you guys are just, I know you were fantastic. And Ron, out of your busy schedule, you're always never too busy to be there for everybody. So
He's 8 other places right now.
Huh? I mean, he's just always the same, and that matters to us. The question, and these are two things, not really a question, but it had to do with those vouchers. I wondered if we had to vote, since it's our taxes, but I guess maybe we already gave them the right. And then the other thing I wondered was, I said after a while, because they are public taxes, even though they're subsidies, at some point there should be some obligation because they are our taxes. And I'm wondering, at some point, somebody in the legislature should point that out. I mean, it's still our taxes. So, at some point it matters that it's my money. Because we pay taxes on this building. This is not you know what I'm saying? So I'm wondering if that really is the thing, that at some point would play into that. That's just a question.
I could tell you this, that we had amendments that would have had a matrix so that there was accountability and transparency, and the Republicans voted it down, so there won't be.
Wow. But you know what? There's a God. We're not fixing to act like this is the end of the world, right? Okay, it's folks that I want to say, 20, 30, 50, 100 years or what, that faced a whole lot worse than we. did, and we're still standing. So we're good. Now, I'm just going to say it like that. We submitted a grant this week. Thank you, Lauren. Lauren works with the foundation. And one of the things we did, we're mind, body, and spirit. And mind is education. And we do scholarships and things like that. We work in the schools. Body, health and wellness. And the spirit is the art that you see. But my husband's an organic chef. And the food that you're about to experience, he's going to tell you what you're getting, what have you. One of the things I was saying about the grant was it's so that we can work, when people can come in and he's going to do some cooking classes and some other things so people can concentrate on their health. We talk about a whole lot of things, but we eat bad. And we can fix a lot of things and stop going to the doctor so much if we stop eating some of the things that they're feeding us. You don't have to eat that stuff. And one of the things he's going to work with is teaching folk. He has a garden out here, and some things you can go on the plant. I don't know if a lot of the kids realize that things come out the ground and from seeds. They think they come from the grocery store. No, for real. I'm not sure if they do. And so one of the things that we do, farm to table and that whole concept, what have you, as we go through this walk that we just talked about, this going to be a walk, whatever, we still got to survive and be okay on the other end. So for those of us who are here who can do that, we're saying that we want to eat right while we go through it. So I just want everyone to share with you what you'll eat tonight. It's going to be organic and it's going to be good.
Well, full house. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Jeff, always good to see you. State Rep. And what's your name again, bro?
Howard Henderson.
Dr. Henderson. That's what's up.
Dr. Henderson.
All right. I've been putting my foot in this all day, and it's fresh and organic. And what we have is a red wine marinated lamb chop loin with herbs, and you're going to get some roasted sweet potatoes with ginger and butter sauce. And you're going to get some my Killer Kale 2.0, which is a sauteed kale, all herbs. I don't cook with any pork, so you'll be pork free. And what else do we have? We have I made a carrot top salad for you guys in the small little black containers with a special dressing I make. Roasted carrots.
You grilled something.
Huh?
You grilled something.
Oh, I grilled the lamb chops, yeah.
Oh.
And we got roasted carrots, which is another one of my favorites. And you get the roasted garlic as well with the carrots in there, all olive oil, herb seasoning. So totally going to keep you healthy and coming back hopefully for more. That's the idea.
All right.
Of course, we've got some red wine. Oh, we've got black eyed peas, organic black eyed peas. We've got jasmine rice. We've got, you'll see. I'll share. So anyway, so we've got some amazing wine that kind of complements the lamb for those that do partake still. Certainly welcome to that. And as you always say, please like, share, and subscribe. And if you feel so inclined, you can tip the chef as well. Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, Lauren said if you came late, please sign in so we can know who you are and continue to reach out to you. Thank y'all so much. It's been a wonderful show. That's all I can say about that. Good night, Jeff.
All right.